Welcome to AXIS in Conversation, a choreographer's journey in conversation with Robert Dekkers and company dancer JanpiStar. Today's guest, Robert Dekkers, is the founder and artistic director of Post Ballet, a Bay Area arts collective committed to integrating dancers, choreographers, and interdisciplinary artists in the creation of new works. Robert is also the artistic director of Berkeley Ballet Theater, a community and pre-professional dance center that is also the official school of Post Ballet. In addition, Robert has received choreographic commissions from companies including AXIS Dance Company, Atlanta Ballet, Kansas City Ballet, Grand Rapids Ballet, Diablo Ballet, and SJ Dance Co. His work has been presented at Jacob's Pillow, Seattle's Against the Grain Festival, and the SF International Arts Festival, as well as on the screen at the SF Dance Film Festival and the Frameline International LGBTQ Film Festival. Please join us in welcoming Robert Dekkers with company dancer in conversation with JanpiStar.
Hello.
Hello,
welcome. Hello, people in the world. My name is JanpiStar. This is AXIS in Conversation. I'm one of the AXIS dancers, and today I'm gonna have the honor, the pleasure to be interviewing and have a conversation with the one and only Robert Dekkers.
Hi, meow.
Hi. And Robert, let's start. We have worked together before. We can just talk.
Yeah.
We talk anytime. But I want to start knowing more about you. Like, where did you grow up? And how did you first encounter dance?
So I'm from the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from a small town called Loganville, Georgia, where our town motto is, "Where's Loganville?" So let me just tell you, you have to drive past the cow pastures all the way, keep going, and then you'll find my old house. But my mom was a piano teacher and really gave us a lot of exposure to the arts when I was young. And somehow or another, I became really interested in dance and specifically in ballet. So as she tells it, by the time I was 4 years old, I was tugging on her shirt asking when I was going to get to take ballet lessons. So after about a year of having to kind of defer this request, she finally reached out to Atlanta Ballet, and I was able to start training there. So we had to drive an hour into the city and an hour home every day. But I got to, she was like, "Well, if you're going to do it, you should do it right, honey." And so I got to start training from a very young age at this great school. And it kind of just unlocked my love of dance. The more I learned, I just really started to pursue it. And then, I also would dance with my friends around the neighborhood and learn the choreography of music videos. And so I was always interested in other kinds of dance as well. And so, having the foundation of ballet and kind of curiosity about other ways of moving kind of directed my path forward.
Great, nice. Very interesting. I'm loving it already. I'm loving everything.
So, I want to return the questions to you. So we're going to have to do another one of these offline where you're going to respond to all of your questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Call me.
But maybe you can tell us more about your background in dance when you were growing up. How many years have you been working in the field as a dancer and a choreographer?
So I started dancing when I was 5 years old and trained all the way through high school. I started at Atlanta Ballet School, and then when I was in high school, switched to a smaller school called Gwinnett Ballet Theater that was a little closer to our home and had really great training. And then after high school, I got a job with Ballet Arizona, which is in Phoenix, and danced there. It's a more classical company, and we did a lot of Balanchine ballets. And then I moved to San Francisco and got a job with ODC Dance, where I danced when I first moved here. And then I joined a company called Company C Contemporary Ballet, and then later Diablo Ballet. So that was kind of my journey as a dancer. And I started choreographing, I guess I was probably 16 when I made my first official piece. And it was for my school. And we did this festival called Regional Dance America. And so my piece was selected to be performed on the new choreographer program. And I received a scholarship to this choreographic training program that summer. So when I was 17, I went to, it was actually held at the Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet Studios in Pennsylvania. And yeah, I got to spend 2 weeks. I was by far the youngest person there. And but it really kind of opened my eyes just to like this whole world of choreographing. And, you know, I love dancing, and I'm always, once a dancer, always a dancer. But I think, you know, getting to kind of take that step back and like envision like a world and how to use movement to communicate feelings and ideas and relationships just fascinated me. So yeah, I kind of started choreographing on schools and then later on companies. And then in 2010, I founded my own company here in San Francisco called Post Ballet. And we just had our 10th anniversary. So can't believe it.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, and now it's kind of interesting. I'm starting to sort of shift into more of like the role of like director, where I'm commissioning choreographers and bringing in other artists to work with the company as well, which feels really fulfilling as well, to give, you know, a platform for new artists to, you know, create and experiment.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, we can say that your whole life have been doing art. You have been receiving art information and creating since ever. That's amazing. I love it. And let's talk, you know, like the different work that you have done. One is one that we have done in Axis called Flutter. And like, I just want to ask you, like, how was your experience, like setting Flutter in Axis? You know, we are a physically integrated dance company, and you know, if it was different or not. Why you decide to reset again that piece in Axis if it was a decision? Or, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I think like, you know, because originally I was thinking about creating something new. And then Mark mentioned that there hadn't been like a work that had been restaged on the company, in part because of, you know, the physical integration and the translation. Like, it's very conducive for the creation of new material. And so I really liked that challenge of like taking an existing piece and finding like how to create a new expression of it. And for me, Flutter really is, it's about the musicality and the architecture of the work. And so it was actually really easy to translate it, because I knew the rhythms that I wanted to create, the sort of shape of the three dancers. They're constantly shifting shapes. And so, and you guys were also wonderful. Like, if I, you know, I had an idea and like, this is the like dynamic that I wanted to express. And then you would say, oh, I could do it like this. And so it felt like, yes, it was a restaging, but there was still conversation and creativity, and like real, like genuine collaboration happening in the space. And I felt like just, you know, as we worked on it, like it brought out like I saw the piece in a new way. And really like getting to see it on stage, you know, and like I just was so proud of like that journey that we took together, and like how we created this, you know, new work from something that had existed before.
Great, great. I love that piece. I think that's one of my favorite piece in Axis repertory right now.
Oh, you killed it.
Ah, thank you. No.
I love
And
it.
also we can say like you have experience working with both fields, you know, working in the field that people without disability and working in the field that physically integrated, like, you know, they are separate words, but for me this is just the word of dance.
Yeah,
But
I
like,
agree.
if you can tell something, like you can share any difference you notice working with a dancer with a disability and a one without.
I mean, I think like in the same way that like, who was it that said, oh, it was Arthur Pita, when we were doing that question and answer, he likened it to like using like when you have a dancer on point, right? Like that shifts what you can do with the dancer from a dancer who's in flat shoes. it's not more or less, it's just a different thing. And you have to learn, if you try to choreograph a piece on point as if you were choreographing it barefoot, it won't work, right? It doesn't work with that tool that the dancer is using. So I think it's the same thing, right? Like, you know, it's or like working with props, you know, like I think that like you have to be like aware of like what the, you know, there's, you know, you could say like point shoes are limiting, but also they create more opportunities in different ways. And the same thing, like, you know, working with a dancer who uses a wheelchair, like to me there are things that you can do that like I cannot do, I literally cannot do, and like movements and spins and shifts. And like I think that like focusing on what it was that was unique about what you could bring to the movement, like was really inspiring to me, and it kind of opened up my eyes of just like new ideas of creating movement. So to me, I agree. I think it's all one and the same. It's movement, it's dance, you know, it's I don't see it as two like, you know, separate things. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you. It's how we see something, how we perceive something. Like, I think we have so many labels and like boxes in society that so many of us don't fit. And I think like we don't need to fit. We can find our own box and our
Yeah,
own way and, you know, find
exactly.
our own movement. I
Exactly.
love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like it's like almost, I think like the responsibility of an artist to push outside of that box, to create new forms and new ways of expression. And I think when you do something that feels very genuine to yourself as an individual, like people feed that. And even though everyone's, you know, world perspective is unique, like we relate to that like honesty and the vulnerability, right? And so like I think as an artist, like we don't not only have the opportunity, but in fact like the like obligation to push past those like rigid boundaries that we're given in society.
Definitely, definitely. And you know, I can imagine that right now you are more used to work with a person with a disability or with a wheelchair or anything, but at the first time, the first moment that you had the opportunity to work with a person with a different body, you know, like it was something challenging. It was something that influenced your choreography or your way to approach choreography then as a choreographer. Like, can you tell us something?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's true, like no matter what, when you go into work, like every dancer has their own, you know, set of strengths and weaknesses and the things that they can bring to the table that no one else can. And I think that's kind of like the challenge, and it is a challenge. It's hard. It means you have to really like be very like perceptive as a choreographer to like see what each person is bringing to the table. And again, like not trying to put people into boxes, but instead to like create houses and structure around where they're at. And I think, you know, like it's two extremes. Like if you just everything's fine and everything's sort of improv and just do whatever, then there's no structure and there's no form. But then if you try to put everything in, it just feels like you're like doing this, right? And like, so I think that's kind of the fun challenge as a choreographer. And that's what makes it like, I feel so grateful that like the paint that I use is like alive and like talks to me and like raises a hand and be like, yo, this doesn't work. Or like, oh, I have this idea, you know, like painters just have to like do it all on their own and like just paint on a white square, you know, like my white square in the studio, like this like empty space comes with like all of these like living beings, and every day there's emotions and there's like, you know, ideas, and you know, we're all every day we come into the space as different people than we were the day before. So like finding ways to like honor that like humanity each day. Like I just feel so lucky to work in this field, you know, in this art form.
Great, great. Like, I think those are beautiful words. And like, we are so alive as dancers and as human. Our work is so alive all the time. And I think like that's my favorite part of dance,
Yeah.
that is so alive every time. And your emotion, you can see your emotion in the movement or everything that is going on. I don't know, like I really like that expression through the body. And yeah, I think you are doing an amazing work as a choreographer.
Thank you.
And we want to know, like, if you have any, what is your most recent work that you have done, and like if you have plan of any new creative process, and if that in your plans are, this is like two in one question,
Sure.
work with a physically integrated environment in the future, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I can repeat the question because it was long.
No, I got you. Let me know if I miss anything when I answer. But
Okay.
I think so like I mentioned, like I've kind of, in addition to like that, my kind of evolution from dancer to choreographer and now into like director, although I still love to choreograph and I'm very passionate about it, like I also really love to like direct and kind of create these like sort of worlds where I can bring in so many different artists, and find a way to like, I think to me that's how you really create like original things, is bring in all of these different ideas and like how they connect with one another, and like it always creates this new like form. So that's kind of something that I've been doing more of lately. Like earlier this year I directed a show called Rightfully Ours that was a collaboration with the San Francisco Girls Chorus. And it included my studio company dancers from Berkeley Ballet Theater, which is like my most advanced group of students, as well as guest artists from Post Ballet. And so we ended up with, I think there were 40 choristers and a total of like 30 dancers. So there were about 70 people total on stage. And I worked with 6 different choreographers to create the work. So each of them created sections, and I also made some of the sections of the work, and then also kind of took the role of director and kind of finding the flow and the like underlying like concept, working with the costume designer and the lighting designer and the music director, and how the whole thing would be connected. And that to me is like really fulfilling, to see so many different artists speaking different languages coming in. And I think like for the chorus to see the like discipline that the dancers have, and then the same when the dancers saw the choristers warming up, it was like, you inspire each other so many different ways, especially when it's across disciplines. I think that to me is so exciting to see. Just like I think as dancers, we know we do our class, we have our rehearsal, like we have this sort of structure that kind of almost becomes sacred. And I love seeing like the sacred process of different artists, like what is their path to creativity. And then when you learn from each other, it just strengthens and like amplifies your own process. So that was a really fun and fulfilling project that I got to do at the beginning. Actually, we got to perform it like a week before everything went down and we had to start sheltering in place. So I feel very grateful that we got to present this final work before live performance kind of went on hiatus. Another work that I'm working on for the future is a new evening length with Post Ballet and a group that we collaborate with often called the Living Earth Show. It's an evening length story about Orpheus and Eurydice, or at least it's based on that classic myth. And the piece has an original score by a composer named Samuel Adams, and Vanessa Thiessen, who's the resident choreographer of Post Ballet, is choreographing the work. So I'm directing it. I'm working with the two of them, as well as the costume designer and the dancers, and kind of like guiding this thing. It's the first time that like Post Ballet has made an evening length work that I haven't choreographed, and so it's interesting. It's kind of like it's my baby, and like kind of passing it on. But I think for the company to grow and kind of reach its full potential, to me, I mean, that's why I didn't name it Robert Dekkers Dance Theater. Was like I always from day one wanted the company to be a place where artists, choreographers, dancers, everyone could come in and like just learn from each other, and experiment and play. I feel grateful that the company is of a size that I liken it to like a speedboat, because we can kind of, if things shift, we can go with the flow. And so I think like that to me has been really fulfilling, is just kind of creating a space for artists that I really believe in to do what they are passionate about. The show was originally going to premiere this summer, but obviously coronavirus. So we are postponing it. We're going to kind of work on some like short films inspired by the piece this summer and fall, and then we'll just see when the time is right. It will hit the stage. But yeah, I think like that to me has been something that I've been really enjoying, is kind of facilitating other artists' work.
Great, and we can see that you keep creating, but now from another perspective, from
Yeah.
another place. Great, that's amazing, and like I'm grateful. I'm happy that you have, you were able to present your work, and like you have some, work. We are privileged to being able to keep working in these hard times.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's amazing. And like, can you tell us like, if have you had the opportunity before to present your work like in other parts of the United States or out of the United States? Yeah,
Yeah,
can you?
I've had I mean, I look forward to more. But yeah, I've made work for a couple companies around the country, and Post Ballet has performed. We performed at Jacob's Pillow a few years ago. We went to the Against the Grain Festival in Seattle, and years ago I presented work at the Summer Festival in Austria. But a lot of the work I've done has been Bay Area focused, and stayed here, which, like I definitely look, again, like I'm excited to, continue, like, and I think if in anything, like during this time, like people are able to like share their work, because we're all online, share it with a broader range of people and audiences. So I really hope to bring, my work to other places more. But dance is really expensive to tour. It's, I mean, every time you want to go somewhere, you've got the whole company and the costume and the, I mean, it's and we have, as dancers, we're a little picky. Like we need like space. We need certain kinds of spaces to perform in. We need like, and so it does present, it's a lot to tour and take work, on the road. And so I feel like, if anything, like during this time, by like shifting some of our work to like online performances and creating like music videos and more like digital content, like actually we'll be able to like connect with more people outside of our direct community.
And how you think like your work have grown in this past 5 years? Like if you can tell a different.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I was thinking about this one, like how has my work been, like, because actually during this time I've had the rare opportunity to like look at old works and like really reflect, like sometimes you choreograph and then you have to go to the next piece and you kind of don't get the chance to like reflect on what you've done. So kind of using the extra time that I've had and like just pulling up old works of mine. And I think like if there's a consistent thread through all of my work, I think it's that like curiosity to like try things that are like, to try to push myself in different ways. And the most effective way that I've found over the years to push myself out of my comfort zone is to work with different artists, because that inevitably, like, you can't just, like be an oligarch and just say, this is the way it is, like when you're collaborating, there's a give and a take, and there's this sort of like fluid exchange of ideas. And so like people say, oh, the works you make all have such different like worlds that they live in, and they're so unique. How do you think of these things? But unfortunately, I wish I could say that I just think of it all on my own. But I think it's just reflective of the different artists that I work with. And so, you bring in a different composer and costume designer and visual artist, and all of a sudden you end up with this thing that's so different from something else that, you know, has been made just 6 months before. And I think that's something that, like, especially over the last 5 years, I've really like dug into, like, with full force, and just like try to, like, and I don't try to just like do things that are different just for the sake of being different. At the end of the day, it has to be an artist that I believe in, that their work resonates with me. But like, we made, I think a couple years ago, a full-length ballet called Lavender Country to music by a country music band called Lavender Country, and they performed live, and the group is credited as being like the first openly queer country music album. The music came out in 1972, and you know, like, if you had told me that I would make a ballet to country music, I would have said, "Oh no, I will not." But I heard the music, and like the heart of it, the message that the singer and songwriter was conveying through this work was so deep, and it was so true to him, and that honesty like resonated with me. And so I felt like, you know, like, to have the opportunity to learn from this artist and to like amplify their words with movement and visual information. So that was something that felt very outside of what I have normally done. And it was really in large part because of that influence of the collaborator. In the way that, like, the work that I'm working on right now, Lyra with the Living Earth show, you know, it's based in this like Greek mythology story. It has one composer. It's this sort of like evening length work. It has a more classical structure, and yet, like, there's a lot of like newness just brought in by these different artists. The costume designer Rashad Pridgen has this really unique like worldview for this piece, and that is just placing it in a whole different environment from anything post ballet's done before. And yeah, so I think like the evolution in my work is personal evolution, and also just like this like ever expanding like web of collaborators that I get to learn from.
Love it, love it, love it. Amazing. And I can see like one of the most important thing is to be open, you know, to be open to collaborate with other artists, to be open to receive, you know, feedback or other information, because I think the world is changing so fast and everything is changing so fast that also we need to be open to also we adapt and work with what is, you
Yeah,
know, alive or moving in the moment. So I think
yeah,
that's really important as an artist, choreographer, or as a human. Be ready, you know, for change, because it's what we have every
the
day.
only thing we can count on, right, is that everything's gonna
Exactly.
change. The only thing the
Definitely.
only consistent thing in life is change.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our last question. And, you know, this is more to the present time, to what we are living now. How has COVID-19 impact you and your work? And what do you think our new normal will be after all this and we come back, you know, wow, back to earth?
Shit. That is such a I wish I had an answer for you. I will tell you one thing for sure, is that every day my answer changes. I think as more information is presented and we see how things are responding, like, every day I have a sort of like updated response to what I think this new normal will be and what this new world is that will enter. And I imagine that will continue to change, you know, every day as we continue to live through this. Things that I feel pretty certain about are that humans need connection. We need to be with each other physically. I think that it is something that, like, as dancers, we kind of know, because we get this great gift of like deeply connecting in physical ways with other people every day. I don't think most people get that much physical touch in their life. And so I think that this being pulled away is like making us all realize how important that connection is. And I think also community, how important it is, the people that we are around. And yes, we're in this like globalized world where, you know, everything we do impacts everyone else in the world. And in order to like deal with some of the biggest issues that we have, coronavirus is one, but climate change, other things like as well, like we have to work together on a global scale. And I think this has like made it more clear than ever just how important like community is, and our neighbors and the people who live across the street from us, and like to be able to commune with one another is something that I hope we will no longer take for granted, and will appreciate. I think as artists, like I think that dance is a medium that has kind of been a little bit like long overdue for like a bit of like a kick in the pants to like move forward. And you know, there's a lot about dance that I of course love, and there's a lot that I look forward to like being shaken off. And I think I would say that social, like as like on a societal level as well, like I really hope that we can use this time to let go of things that are no longer serving us, to make changes in both in our like art form and in like in the medium, the way that we work, but also just again like that would ripple out on a broader scale of like you know, there's so much that's just left over in dance from these like, you know, colonial, like patriarchal, sexist, like just all the isms are like, especially in ballet, are just so prevalent still. And so I really hope that this is an opportunity for us to kind of like redefine what dance is about, and like, or maybe like realign, and like that it's about like humanity. It's about like expressing ourselves physically with something that's so deep that we can't say it with words. And that's what art to me always is that it's like this deep expression of oneself and one's worldview that we share, and hope that others will see what we're seeing and reflect that back to us. So, you know, like I think that we're gonna see a lot of institutions kind of fall by the wayside, and I think it will be hard, but also is really exciting to have this chance to sort of really sow some new seeds and find, you know, what it is that we really want to bring back, and what we are going to have the opportunity to leave behind. That was a long-winded answer, and
no, I love it. Definitely.
It's like, definitely I'm thinking about it, but all the time, like I think we all are, you know, like where are we headed? What does this mean for our art form? What does this mean for our communities, for our like global, you know, situation? And like, you know, I am an internal optimist, and so like I hold dear to the hope that we will, you know, use this as a chance to reconnect with each other, like on that human level, and you know, just be grateful for what we have, and these like connections and friendships and loves and communities that exist.
I agree. It's so beautiful, and like that's what we need. That's why we have each other as human. Like we need to be connected, because you don't know when you're gonna need help from your neighbor, or you don't know in what situation like this one you're gonna be tomorrow, like unexpected. You're gonna need to ask for help, like for any reason. So I think that's important, like for us every day to remind to be humans, and think more in the other, and like everyone is different, but we need to we are living in the same world, like, so
Yeah.
we need to share that energy and all those feeling and emotion together as a big family in the whole world. So I think the connections and reconnections are important and are going to happen and are happening right now, because I think we are connecting through Zoom to places that maybe we are not gonna be connecting before, because now we can teach to everyone, like wherever you are. So I think we are starting to feel that connection and reconnection between humans, even though it's different, it's more virtual, but I think connections are connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect note to end this amazing interview. It was an honor, a pleasure to know that amazing information about you and your work and your passion as an artist, as a choreographer, and now as a director. I wish you most of the success in everything that you have in the future and in the present. And thank you so much for sharing this amazing conversation with AXIS Dance Company, AXIS in Conversation.
Thank you so much, Jampi, for reaching out and wanting to speak with me. Like, it's like what you're saying about connection, and like I think, you know, like the virtual connection is different, like, and it's hard to like feel that sense. Like, I'm just thinking back to when we were in the studio together, and like when we wouldn't have even thought about like touching and hugging, and like now that seems like such a different world. And I think, like, you know, like shifting how we use these technologies, and like if we can find a way to keep that like humanity and that vulnerability and that intimacy, you know, and connecting with each other in this time, you know, we can really, like you're saying, like rebuild and like re-energize, like on a global scale, the way that we interact with each other. And I just feel so grateful to know you, and so honored that you asked me to be a part of this conversation. I miss you terribly.
The first person, when they say, you need to interview someone, I was like, Robert Dekkers. The first person, Robert Dekkers.
Thank you.
So it was an honor.
So
Thank you, me too.
Keep creating all this beautiful art that I see of you online. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.